I dare say it's a little bit brighter than usual today, or at least as far as the afternoon is concerned. But good afternoon, everyone, or perhaps good evening, as I usually keep saying. Hope everyone's doing well. I don't know about you, but I know the elderly are supposed to be getting their winter fuel payments, but there's going to be one bloody payment that I'm going to be making that I'm not going to be too comfortable about, because I left the fucking heating on. 18 degrees on the thermostat, 8 hours, ding, here's the fucking bill. Actually, it's more like 10. Maybe I should forward the bill to Keir the traitor Starmer. Maybe he'll pay for me. Maybe if I just stick a zero on the end, say I'm fucking 340 years of age or something, maybe he'll pay. And I'm getting a scam call, apparently. Actually, no, it's probably O2 trying to sell me some shit again. Anyway, that's not why you called, or why he called. I wanted to talk a bit more about Sadiq, totally not a terrorist Khan, and there's the notification. It's definitely from O2. Wankers. I actually love the fact that every single time O2 tries to call me, it literally just comes up with a notification that says, suspected scam. Well, that's definitely what we've got as far as our establishment is concerned. That's for bloody sure. I'm sure if I sent O2 to Keir the traitor Starmer, I'm sure those two would have a great stroke number one, a great collaboration. After all, liars like Keir the traitor Starmer and Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan go hand in glove. Now, last time I checked the petition, speaking of Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan, apparently the signature to stop the knighthood, that's gone up to about, I think it's like 140,000 now in signatures. Maybe give or take 10,000, that is. Frankly, I think the number should have an extra zero on the end of it. But obviously, I can't just magic a pencil out of thin air and draw on the bloody thing. And I do accept there are going to be some people who say, well, these things haven't made a shit's worth of difference. I disagree. I think clearly, when Keir the traitor Starmer found out how many signatures were on that petition, even he was shocked. Which does at least show that he's taken notice, if nothing else, of how many people want this treacherous sectarianist bastard out of 10 Downing Street. But as we all know, dictators, or dictators, or whatever you want to call them, they don't resign. And he certainly looks like a dictator to me. I mean, it'd be kind of fitting, wouldn't it, for the right-wing AI channels who have been saying he's a stroke number two, a homosexual, falsely or so, to actually be correct for once. And right now, we're going nearly a stroke a minute. Next one's probably going to put me in ICU. Anyway, the point is, Keir the traitor Starmer and Sadiq Khan, they go together like hand in glove, and they're all out looking after themselves, not the country. I can't even remember the last time that Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan has actually done anything right for this country. The same obviously also applies to Keir the traitor Starmer. But perhaps something I should bring up of a much more serious note, which just shows how far this country has fallen. You know the old saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree? Well, the stormtroopers, sorry, I mean police, or maybe I was right first time, the stormtroopers, well, a couple of officers have actually decided to speak out in defence of the Islamists. They've decided to speak out in defence of Palestine. They've decided to be the sectarianist bastards like Keir the traitor Starmer is. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. Last time I checked, I thought it was against the law to support terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, to which Palestine has strong connections to and strong allegiance to. And to those who want to support Palestine, if you want to support Palestine, why don't you fuck off to Gaza? Why don't you fuck off to Israel? Or some other third world shithole where you rightfully belong? What do I hear the left-wing NPC saying? I'm intolerant? Yeah, you're abso-fucking-lutely right. I'm absolutely intolerant of a group of intolerant terrorist cunts from an intolerant death cult that is Islam. I am completely intolerant of those who are intolerant of us. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I am fucking intolerant of those dickheads who think themselves as the victims, when in reality they are the perpetrators and the scourge of the earth. And to the police maggots who have actually come out in defence of them, if you like them so much, go and join them. Go and join them in their third world shitholes, because you are clearly not someone who serves the people. And you know what? Going off topic for a second. Okay, time's up. Anyway, going off topic for a moment. Yeah, that time's up as well. But no, in all seriousness, going off topic for a minute or so. There was a time where I was part of the Prince's Trust, where we all went on a 1 week activity course or something like that. In Derbyshire, I believe. There was one activity we did just before we were leaving the place. Archery. I remember it all too well now. I remember the first 3 shots. I think the first shot I did reasonably well, got the 3rd ring, I believe, out of 5. Not the innermost one before the bullseye, the one after. Then there was, I think, a 2 and a miss. But after that, the 4th shot, I decided to concentrate. And when I concentrated, I thought of nothing but the bullseye. Held my breath, exhaled, fired the shot. Perfect bullseye. What I'm trying to say in all this is sometimes I may be a little bit off-centre at times. But you know what? When I do hit the centre, you know I'm going to hit a fucking corker of a shot. On that same basis, afterwards we all had a bonus round, and we took like 2 shots at a balloon that was, I think, in the top right segment of this bullseye target. First shot, I popped the balloon. Then they challenged us to hit the husk that was already blown. I was literally a fucking centimetre or so off, if even that. As I said, I'm not always on target, but when I am, you better fucking watch out. But as far as the police are concerned, your duty, indubitably, not just in my opinion, but every decent person, almost said indecent, probably running around naked. Anyway, every decent person looks at the police, and their standards of the police is basically, you are supposed to be enforcing the law without curry or favour, without political affiliation. You're supposed to serve the people without us having to worry about, oh, are they going to attack us? Or are they going to protect the Mohammedans of the Palestine group? Or are they going to do this, that and the other? No, your duty is twofold. Keep the peace and restore it as soon as possible. But we see time and time again, the police are not politically neutral. They are not politically neutral at all. When it comes down to patriots, if you step a hair out of line, they beat the shit out of you. If you exercise your democratic right to protest, and they decide you're getting a little too loud, they'll arrest you. Yet, the only time they'll arrest Palestine, or the Islamists walking through our streets, is when the police are getting directly assaulted, and sometimes not even then. But that's something, of course, the mainstream media are not going to want to tell you. But when they do tell us that something's going on, the media are very quick to avert our gaze over in that direction. Look at that group over there. Look at them. They're the violent ones, not these Palestine cunts that you keep on complaining about. Not the police, who are supposed to be impartial in their duty and serve the British public, rather than only serving them nothing but pain. All this is on the back of Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan, the man who is about to get an undeserved knighthood. A man who is as deserving of that knighthood and the title of Sir as I am of the title Mr. Fitness. Last time I checked, I thought a knighthood was supposed to represent people who, as I said in the last video, go above and beyond the rank and file and the call of duty, who go out of their way to magnanimously serve their fellow man, women and children. I thought it was supposed to be someone who has the highest standards of what it means to be a decent human being. Not some odious little cockroach sitting in his mayoral office, or in Keir the Traitor Starmer's case, the Houses of Treachery, I mean Parliament, or again, maybe I was right first time, and basically screw every Indigenous person over, wage war on the motorists, have a two-tier police force that batters anyone that is considered far-right, while letting Palestine terrorists and Islamist wankers who are intolerant of us walk through the streets, spouting their vitriol and their absolute hatred for anybody that isn't a Mohammedan. And I am going to continue to say it like this, and you can say it with me, because I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I am not going to mince my words. I'm going to say it exactly how it is, and I will do my best not to bullshit you. Though I can't promise I won't have a few more strokes along the way, but we'll worry about that as we come to it. I cannot think of a group of more odious, disgusting vermin currently sitting in the highest positions of power. Mark Rowley, Keir the Traitor Starmer, Tony the War Criminal Blair, Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan. 4 odious vermin, cockroaches, that are completely undeserving of the knighthood that a 4th one is now about to get his. Like I said, they are as deserving of that title as I am of the title Mr. Fitness. They have no right to be called Sir. Disservice, maybe. But I certainly wouldn't call these traitorous snakes that lie in the Houses of Parliament, in the police force or the mayoral office, I would never call them Sir. You could point a gun at my head and say, call them Sir. And I tell you to go to fucking hell. Because I have those principles. And I know some people are going to be like, nah, you're just playing tough, you're just being tough, and you'll whimper and you'll say, yes sir, Sir Sadiq Khan. No, I won't. Because I'm a man, as I said, and this is going to be red flags. I am a man with nothing to lose. Or practically nothing to lose. Maybe a computer, but that's about it. As far as family's concerned, that's nearly gone. As far as wealth is concerned, I have barely anything. A house, yeah, sure I have it, but it's a council flat. And speaking of wealth, remember these teeth are coming out. So that's going to put a further dent into it. I am a man who has very little to lose. I am a man who is not afraid anymore of death. I am not afraid anymore of going to prison. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need to be prepared to do if we want to stop the current dictatorship. We have to either be prepared to get killed or go to jail. That's the cold, bitter truth. What do you think Tommy Robinson does? What do you think Maya Toosey does? What do you think Paul Thorpe does? What do you think Richard Inman does on a daily fucking basis? They risk getting killed. They risk getting arrested. And in Tommy Robinson's case, actually getting arrested and sent to jail in a category B or C prison when he is a Cat D prisoner, and he is forced to eat out of cans because of the Muslim population in a lot of these prisons that basically had the potential to poison his food. You know, the shit that basically mainstream media try to fact check and send somebody in to be like, no, Tommy's speaking a load of bollocks. No. Go and look at the prisons. Do some research. Look into the demographic of the prisons, and you will find a substantial number of them are holding mostly Islamic prisoners. But we're supposed to sit here and believe that Keir the Traitor Starmer is going to bring about, in air quotes, change. Well, he is right on that much. He has brought about change, all right. He's changing our country into a third world shithole. That's the change he's bringing. He is a man who has about as much respect for the British people as I have respect for salad. The man is about as desired in this country, nearly had a third stroke, as a nonce is in a school. Like I said, these people are odious vermin, nothing more. And remember, Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan raised rent prices by 35%. He has caused a war against the motorist, which has basically made the motorists suffer because of this bullshit ULEZ scheme that was deemed unlawful. He's trying to put up fucking ULEZ cameras in front of funeral homes. Yeah, funeral homes. He's trying to exploit people who have lost fucking loved ones or friends. This is the man that's going for knighthood. And that stuff's tame compared to him, oh, I don't know, sympathising with a family who was housing basically one of the 7/7 bombers. Yeah, that kind of person. He wanted to give legal advice, I believe, if I recall correctly. This is the man who's applying for knighthood. A man who literally gives no fucks about the British people and only cares about furthering his own goals, furthering his own power and money. A man who pushes DEI through his fireworks when it should be about celebrating a fucking new year. Not, oh, how diverse and equal and tolerant we are when we've got an intolerant death cult that is Islam. And think about it, because of the ULEZ scheme, technically he's caused vandalism to go up as well, even though I consider what the Blade Runner's doing not vandalism, because I think this is in the public interest to stop an unlawful set of cameras going up that basically causes motorists to suffer if they haven't got a ULEZ compliant car. I don't condone breaking the law, but bear this in mind. Because ULEZ is unlawful, technically the Blade Runners aren't actually committing any criminal offence because the cameras shouldn't have been up in the fucking first place. That's checkmate. I know the truth hurts, and it really hurts Sadiq, the terrorist sympathising Khan's feelings that his ULEZ scheme is being dismantled just like his fucking cameras. But that's the thing. If ULEZ is unlawful, where's the crime? If it was actual criminal damage, I'd be 100% against it. But those Blade Runners are actually heroes. They're saving the motorists, something that terrorist sympathising Khan does not understand. Especially considering as he's dodged so many questions like I dodged salads, he hasn't got any credibility of being a mayor whatsoever. Because last time I checked, when you're in a public office, you're supposed to be able to answer these questions. I cannot think of a group of more loathsome men than the four I've mentioned. In fact, while Sadiq Khan has been in power, not just ULEZ, not just vandalism, not just supporting a terrorist who was part of the 7/7 bombings, Sadiq Khan has caused all crime in London to go up substantially, all the while trying to virtue signal towards climate change. That's something else as well. He's now endorsed, along with, I think, Rachel Thieves, the Just Stop Oil climate change nonsense. To put that into perspective for you, Just Stop Oil, for anybody who hasn't been fully briefed into what Just Stop Oil have been doing, Just Stop Oil are basically the group of Extinction Rebellion NPCs who've gone out of their way to repeatedly obstruct roads, climb on top of bridges to further cause disruption. They were also part of Insular Wankers, sorry I mean Britain, or again, maybe I was right first time, who ended up walking head-on into oncoming traffic on the M25 and have basically been a massive public nuisance, causing people to miss job interviews, lose their jobs, cause people to die, cause unnecessary suffering to people who are trying to visit relatives who are dying of cancer. Yeah, Those are the lovely people that Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan wants to associate with. And obviously I say that with the most blatant sarcasm. It really does show you where Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan's priorities are truly at, and it's not to the people of London. The bottom line is Sadiq Khan does not deserve this knighthood, 1,000,000%. The only titles I'd give Sadiq Khan are that of traitor, liar, deceiver, Islamic scumbag, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what he is. Though ironically, I say that, but I don't think even Islam wants him, quite frankly. You remember what I said about the DEI stuff, about the fireworks, and how he has actually supported homosexuality as well, which, let me be clear, I have nothing against homosexual people, or lesbians, or anything. If you want to lick the same side of a stamp that a lady does, that's fine. If you want to go at it with another dude, that's entirely fine. The only problem I have is when it's that stuff is shoved down our throats. What they're trying to push, not. You know what I mean. But anyway, because he actually supports LGBTQ, can't forget the Q, that's important. Anyway, he's been supporting that. Islam isn't particularly tolerant, though, of homosexual people, last time I checked. In fact, if they catch a couple of people in a homosexual relationship, last time I checked, they got two options. Either an express delivery from the top of a building, if you catch my meaning, or they get stones. Or in layman's terms, they get chucked off a high-story building, or they get stoned to death. I'm not particularly a fan of that, quite frankly. I don't think any other religion does that either, just the Mohammedans. So he's not only hated by the British people, this Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan, he's also hated by the very religion that he is supposed to be pushing the agenda of. The Quran that sits in the middle of the houses of treachery, that he is supposed to be a part of. But of course now, he's pretty much sullied the waters on both sides. I mean, I can't imagine being in his shoes right now, which are probably two sizes too small. But my point is, Sadiq Khan has literally got nowhere to go as far as safe refuge is concerned, because he's gone against some of Islam's teachings by wanting LGBTQ, and obviously he's done so much irreparable damage towards the British people that if he were on the streets right now and he pushed another intolerant message out or pushed out another bullshit policy, people would want his head on a spike. And let me be clear, I don't advocate for that kind of thing. I don't advocate for politicians to get hurt, much as I loathe some of the bastards. I don't endorse a violent revolution. Let me be clear on that. I will say, however, anything that happens to the police, especially after them now defending the Islamic scumbags of Palestine, anything that happens to the police, or the government, or the media, they only have themselves to blame, because they are the ones who have been pushing this narrative. They have been pushing for the Islamification of our great country. They have been pushing to turn our great nation into a third world shithole. That's what it boils down to. And I don't know about you, but last time I checked, this country is called Great Britain, not Englandistan. And as much as a lot of people want reform to win the next general election, I have to burst people's bubbles, because I don't think Farage is the right person for the job. Because reform has time and time again slandered people who are part of Tommy Robinson's lot, to use Richard Tice's own words. They don't like Tommy Robinson or the people who support him. They also showed a great deal of contempt for Peter Lynch, which in my humble opinion was the final nail in the coffin for the reform lot, to use their own language. Remember, what's-her-face, Anne Widdecombe, she called Peter Lynch a rioter just because he ended up being at those riots and basically shouting at the police and holding a placard. That was the main point, the placard. When all that does, it showcases you're trying to hold up a message. It doesn't show you rioting, it doesn't show you flipping over cars or setting buses and police stations on fire. It just shows you're passionate. Now, I don't know how many people on this bus probably can't stand me right now, or how many of them support me. What I do know, though, is that this message will be getting into their minds, and they need to understand. They need to do some research. You lot need to do some research. I need to do some research. And we all need to understand these problems together. Question everything. Even everything I'm saying. I do not mind people coming up to me and saying, you know what? I want to challenge you on this. Or, I don't think you're correct about this, that, and the other. Because you know what? Debate is healthy. Debate is what advances our civilization. Not these quote-unquote progressives who like to think that they're progressing our society, but are instead regressing it back to a time that quite frankly would scare even the most stalwart soul. The way I look at it is, in order to advance our civilization, I think now we're coming up to a crossroads, quite frankly. I think the cold, bitter truth is, as much as we may not want it, I think a revolution is coming. And it's not going to be a peaceful one, because Keir the traitor Starmer and Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan, they're not interested in peace. They want to spark a fire. They want to have anarchy in the streets. They want the British people to slip. They want the British people to finally lose their shit so they can try and justify bringing in draconian laws. Although we are already living in draconian times. But the thing is, the future won't look at us as far-right thugs and football hooligans and all that shit. They'll be looking at us as people who understood that our country was being destroyed by dictators who have no respect for the British people. Like I said, I don't endorse, condone, want or justify a violent revolution. But there's two choices we've got at this point. We're at the edge of the cliff right now, and the choices are, we stand up and fight, or we live the rest of our lives on our knees at our destroyed nation. Those are our choices. That's the cold, bitter truth. I know this kind of opinion is probably going to alienate me from the pledge, as it were, or Tommy Robinson, or Richard Inman, not Tice. Where the fuck did his name come from? Richard Inman, Maya Toosey, Paul Thorpe, etc., Jeff Taylor, Voice of Wales. It'll probably alienate me from those things because they don't want a violent revolution. Of course they don't. I don't want a violent revolution. But the truth is, we're heading towards that path. JFK once said, when you make peaceful resolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. That's the cold, bitter truth on the matter. And we are heading towards that. And that frankly scares me. And I know for a fact that when it does happen, Keir the traitor stroke number 3 will try to bring the army in, but he will be shocked when he finds a lot of them turn their guns on the Houses of Parliament and the treacherous establishment and the two-tier police. Frankly, I think I've come to terms with renaming the CPS. And I'm not talking about the Children Protection Services, I'm talking about the Crown Prosecution Service. I'm tempted to change the name I call them now to the Criminal Protection Service. Because let's face it, that's what they're doing with a lot of the killers and the rapists and the murderers right now. Or sorry, the killers, the rapists and the nonces right now. They are basically protecting them. Nonces are being able to walk out without a jail sentence like Hugh Degenerate Edwards, while people who put a Facebook post up or a Twitter up on Twitter, they get jailed for years at a time. Remember, there's millions of us. There's only a fraction of that of the treacherous establishment. We vastly outnumber them. Sure, they may have guns. Hell, they could even have tanks. But numbers are what win wars. The Russians know that all too well. Think about the sacrifices they made in World War II. Think of the number of Russians who died. They actually had more casualties than any other country. They sacrificed much to keep the Germans out of Russia. They sacrificed so much. They spilled so much blood to make sure that the motherland stayed in Russian hands. Thank you. I may not endorse what is happening as far as we're leading up to a violent revolution. I may not endorse that, but what I will endorse is bringing back the traitor law and having Keir the traitor Starmer, Tony the war criminal Blair, Gordon the bullion bonding Brown to a lesser extent, Mark Rowley and Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan. I'd like to have them all put on traitor charges and then have them hang from the gallows. Why else do you think Tony Blair rescinded the traitor law just before he went off and sent soldiers into Iraq on a false pretense of weapons of mass destruction? He didn't want to be tried. Simple as that. And in his defence, don't kill me just yet. Anyway, in his defence, I can't really blame him because his free trial of life would end. But it doesn't change the fact that he is still a treacherous bastard and he needs to pay for it. Just as Keir the traitor Starmer needs to pay for it. Just as Sadiq Khan needs to pay for it. Just as Mark Rowley needs to pay for it. And while they may use the threat of bringing in laws to try and curb us, ultimately, we will succeed in taking out the trash, metaphorically speaking. I just hope it doesn't come to a violent revolution. I want this to end peacefully, but I think the cold, bitter truth is that we are very close to, if not completely past the point of peaceful resolution. Do you think I want to say that shit? Of course I don't. Of course I want this to end peacefully. But the truth is, Keir the traitor Starmer is pushing our country off the edge of a cliff right now. And it's up to us to decide, do we let him do it, or do we take control? Unfortunately, it may end up involving the good people of Britain having to overthrow the government. That's the cold, bitter truth. I think it's going to get to that stage. I think we're going to see millions of people take to the street wanting Keir the traitor Starmer's head on a pike. And Sadiq Khan's as well. I think they're going to want to take back the country by any means necessary. Scorched earth if necessary. I don't want that. Do you think Tommy Robinson wants that? Do you think Martuzzi, Richard Inman, Paul Thorpe want that? Of course they don't. I don't want that. But we're rapidly heading towards it. And while some people will say, but that's what they want, as I said, the future won't look at us as these far-right football hooligans and thugs and all that shit. They'll be looking at us as heroes. They'll be looking at us as people who took back their country from treacherous dictators. They will look at us as people who took back the country from the forces of darkness. And my God, they are fucking dark indeed. Right, thermostat off before we do anything. That thing has been running 10 hours. Anyway, enough about that. The bottom line is, we are heading towards a violent revolution. It's sad for me to say. I don't particularly want to say it. But I think we are heading towards that. I think that's the end game, unfortunately. I hope that it can be resolved peacefully. But it seems like Keir the traitor Starmer is going to do everything he can to destroy this great nation. He is going to do everything he can to Islamicize everything, if that's even a word. I think we're going to see a lot of very unpleasant things in the times ahead. But maybe this petition to stop Sadiq Khan's knighthood will actually lead to something. Maybe it will open Sadiq Khan's eyes. And then I woke up. Anyway, it might open his eyes, for all I know. It might actually get him to fucking change. It's a microscopic chance, but it might do. I don't want to hold my breath, because otherwise I'm going to turn blue. and I'll look like fucking Violet from Charlotte and the Child. Stroke number 4, like Violet from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh, dearie me. Speaking of chocolate, goodbye problems, at least for the next 5 minutes. Anyway, moving on. Keir the traitor Starmer isn't going to stop. He isn't. He's a WEF shill. He's a traitor. He's a sectarianist bastard. He's an authoritarian dickhead. And has no respect for the British people. And he's anti-democratic because of his desire to overturn the biggest vote in our history, the Brexit vote. 51.8%. 17.4 million people voting for Brexit. And there wasn't even 17.4 million votes when they were cast for Keir the traitor Starmer on the lowest majority, on the lowest turnout of people compared to the highest turnout and the highest majority of people. He ain't gonna stop. I think the only way this ends is with a government overthrown, unfortunately. And I cannot stress this enough. I don't want it to come to this. But in the end, there may be no choice if we want to save this great nation.